Adriano has invited me with a video installation titled The Mapping Journey Project, along with a series of prints titled The Constellation Series. And we also discussed a new piece that is a textile titled Sea Drift. And all the works have in common to suggest another geography of migration that would not be based on normative cartography, but a form of cartography that is based on lives of those who were forced to travel illegally and to cross borders illegally. Well, in that space, there are actually three different approaches. One that is indeed related to video installation, the other to silk screen printing, and the third one to textile. And I actually see each of them as one aspect of the question that is being developed throughout the works. So I wouldn't say that the central piece is the video installation. I would say that each of the work allows to look in retrospect to each other. So they illuminate each other somehow. The video installation may seem at first glance more documentary, although it is not documentary, and it is not based on interviews, but rather on very long conversations that develop throughout weeks, not to say months for some of them. But after watching the video, you see the Constellation series and you understand that the proposal that is being made here is more to imagine other way of belonging. And that's why I would say that the Constellation series operate as a sort of interface between the video and the textile. The textile look more specifically to the migratory routes in the Atlantic between North and West Africa towards the Canary Islands. And if it is a textile and natural indigo dyed, it's also because it relates to the emergence of indigo trade in the 16th century. So there are different ways of historicizing the question of migration, but also to look at the specifics of every single media in dialogue with each other. I would say that maybe what is central in my practice is the notion of montage that I borrow from cinematic practice, but that I tend to see more as a conceptual approach on how to articulate media, stories, approaches, and so on and so forth. So one can look at all the works as a series of gestures of montage that subtly allows to understand what are the connections between each gesture. I think one way to understand the title of the exhibition is to see it as a possible definition of humankind. We are foreigners everywhere, but paradoxically this can open up to another conception of belonging that wouldn't be rooted in one specific territory, but that could potentially allow us to be in dialogue with each other, no matter from where we come from and no matter where we live. The notion of constellation and the motif of the constellation is also central in my practice. There are many of my works that or directly or indirectly refer to the notion of constellation, but also as a visual motif. So thinking with and through constellation is maybe a marker of my practice. And probably the reason why I'm so attached to this notion of constellation is probably because through the constellation we can imagine other ways to belong, trigger a sense of imagination that help us to project in a hopeful future.